She said, "My ex is coming to our party. If you're uncomfortable, you can leave." I replied, "Understood." Then I canceled the party and emailed all our friends. Sorry, canceled. She wanted to host her ex alone. The calls she got afterward were priceless. Story: the movers were already loading my couch when I pulled into the driveway. That's not something you expect to see on a random Friday afternoon, especially when you haven't hired any movers, especially when your wife Beth told you she was going shopping with her sister. I sat in my truck for a moment, watching these guys in blue uniforms carry out our coffee table like they owned the place. My brain kept trying to process what I was seeing, like when you flip a breaker and the lights don't come on. Something's wrong with the circuit, but you can't figure out what. "Hey!" I called out, jogging toward the front door. "Oh, what's going on here?" One of the movers, a big guy with arms like tree trunks, barely glanced at me. "Ma'am said to have everything out by 5. "Ma'am." My wife Beth appeared in the doorway, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. Perfect blonde hair, perfect makeup, perfect smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was holding a manila envelope. "Jimmy," she said, like she was greeting a neighbor she barely knew. "Good, you're here." "What the hell is this, Beth?" She walked down the front steps, heels clicking on the concrete. The sound reminded me of a timer counting down. "We need to talk." "About why strangers are stealing our furniture." "They're not stealing anything." She held out the envelope. "These are for you." I took it, already knowing I didn't want to see what was inside. The paper felt heavy, official, divorce papers. My name printed in block letters at the top. James Michael Parrish, respondent. "You've got to be kidding me." "I'm not happy anymore, Jimmy. Haven't been for a while." She crossed her arms like we were discussing the weather. "I've fallen out of love with you. I'm with someone else now." The words hit me like touching a live wire. That moment when the current shoots through you and your whole body locks up. Someone else? It doesn't matter who. What matters is that this marriage is over. I looked around at the movers, at my neighbors probably watching from their windows, at my wife standing there like she was discussing a grocery list. "Where are the girls?" "They're with my parents. They'll stay there until I get settled." "Settled where?" "That's not your concern anymore." She turned toward a silver sedan parked across the street. "My lawyer will be in touch about the details." "Beth, wait." But she was already walking away, her heels clicking that same countdown rhythm. The sedan's door slammed, and she was gone. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stood there holding divorce papers while strangers carried my life out the front door. The big mover walked past me with our wedding photo, the glass reflecting the afternoon sun right into my eyes. That's when it hit me. This wasn't spontaneous. You don't hire movers on a whim. You don't draft divorce papers overnight. Beth had been planning this for weeks, maybe months, while I was working late at the electrical company, thinking I was providing for my family. "Excuse me," I called to the big mover. "Where are you taking this stuff?" He looked at his clipboard. 1247 Riverside Drive. Lady already paid us, including a nice tip to keep our mouths shut. He grinned. "But you seem like a decent guy. And she was kind of cold, if you know what I mean." I pulled out my wallet, found a 50. "What's the apartment number?" "Unit 12B. Nice building. Real nice." Riverside Drive. I knew that area. Expensive condos downtown, the kind with doormen and granite countertops. The kind Beth always said we should buy when we made more money. Apparently someone was making more money. I drove downtown with my hands gripping the steering wheel like it might fly away. The divorce papers sat on the passenger seat, mocking me. After 15 years of marriage, I got an ambush and a manila envelope. The Riverside building was exactly what I expected. Glass and steel, perfectly landscaped, the kind of place where people wore suits to check their mail. I parked across the street and stared up at the 12th floor, trying to figure out which window was 12B. That's when I saw the truck. A white Ford pickup with Parrish Brothers Electrical painted on the side. John's truck. My brother's truck. I sat there for 10 minutes telling myself I was wrong. Maybe John was doing a job in the building. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe my wife hadn't left me for my own brother. Then I saw them. Beth and John walked out of the building together, her hand on his arm like they were heading to dinner. She was laughing at something he said, the same laugh she used to give me when we were dating. John opened the passenger door of his truck for her, and she kissed him on the cheek before getting in. My brother, my business partner, the guy who'd been my best man at my wedding. I watched them drive away, and something inside me shifted, like a circuit breaker tripping, cutting power to one part of the house so the rest doesn't burn down. Beth wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. She'd forgotten that I was an electrician, and electricians know exactly how to cut someone's power. Monday morning, I walked into Parish Brothers Electrical like nothing had happened. Mary, our office manager, looked up from her computer with that expression people get when they don't know what to say about your personal disaster. "Morning, Jimmy. How was your weekend?" "Educational." I poured myself coffee from the pot she always kept fresh. "Is John in yet?" "He's on a call in his office. Sounded important." I walked down the hallway toward John's office, passing the framed photos of our biggest jobs, the hospital renovation, the new shopping center, 15 years of building this business together, and he'd thrown it all away for my wife. His door was closed, but I could hear his voice through the thin walls. He was talking quietly, almost whispering. "Can't keep doing this. Jimmy's getting suspicious. Need to be more careful." I didn't knock. John looked up from his desk, phone pressed to his ear. When he saw me, his face went white. "I'll call you back," he said quickly, hanging up. "Morning, brother." I closed the door behind me. "Busy weekend?" "The usual. Caught up on some paperwork, watched the game." He was trying to look casual, but sweat was beading on his forehead. "How about you?" "Interesting weekend. Got served divorce papers. Wife moved out. Turns out she's been having an affair." John's jaw tightened. "Jimmy, I'm sorry. That's terrible." "The weird part is, she moved to Riverside Drive. You know that area? Expensive condos?" "Not really." "Funny thing. I drove by there, and I could swear I saw your truck." The silence stretched between us like a live wire. John's hands were flat on his desk, and I could see the wedding ring Beth had given him years ago when she was still playing the role of loving sister-in-law. "Jimmy." "Who was on the phone just now?" "A client." "Which client whispers about being careful and not getting caught?" John stood up, trying to use his height advantage. He'd always been the bigger brother, the one who played football in high school while I was in the electronics club. "I don't like what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. My wife left me for someone else. She moved to an expensive condo. Your truck was parked outside that condo. You're taking mysterious phone calls about being careful." I stepped closer to his desk. "How long, John?" "How long what?" "How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" The question hung in the air between us. John's face cycled through about 5 different expressions before settling on defiant. "Things happen, Jimmy. People grow apart. Beth wasn't happy." There it was, the admission. 15 years of marriage, 20 years of brotherhood, and that was his explanation? Things happen. I picked up the coffee mug from his desk, the one that said, "World's Best Uncle," that my daughters had given him last Christmas. I looked at it for a moment, then threw it against the wall as hard as I could. The crash was loud enough to bring Mary running. She appeared in the doorway just as coffee was dripping down the wall onto John's diplomas. "Everything okay in here?" "Just fine," I said, not taking my eyes off John. My brother was just explaining how things happen, how people grow apart, how my wife wasn't happy. Mary's eyes went wide. She'd worked for us long enough to put the pieces together. "Mary," I continued, "I need you to prepare a buyout agreement. I'm selling my half of the business to John here. Full market value to be paid within 30 days. "Jimmy, don't be hasty," John started. "Hasty?" I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "You've been planning this for months. Beth doesn't make moves without thinking them through, and you've always been her favorite parish brother. This whole thing was calculated." I turned to Mary. "Also, I need you to change the locks on my office, and cancel my company credit cards, and send an email to all our clients letting them know that effective immediately, John Parrish is the sole owner of Parish Brothers Electrical." "Jimmy, think about what you're doing," John said. "This company is your life." "My life was my family. You took that. The company is just business." I walked toward the door, then stopped. John's office chair was one of those expensive leather ones, the kind that swivels and tilts. He'd always been proud of it, said it made him feel like a real executive. I grabbed the back of the chair and shoved it as hard as I could. It rolled backward and slammed into the window, the armrest leaving a spiderweb crack in the glass. "Oops," I said. "Guess you'll need to get that fixed. Good thing you own an electrical company." Mary was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But for the first time since Friday, I felt like I was thinking clearly. "One more thing, John. You and Beth deserve each other. But when this whole thing falls apart, and it will, don't come crying to me. You made your choice." I walked out of his office, past Mary's desk, and straight to my own office. I had work to do. The first email went to our client list. Dear valued customers, effective immediately, Jonathan Parrish is the sole owner and operator of Parrish Brothers Electrical. Please direct all future communications, complaints, and service requests to him personally. I'm confident he'll give you the same level of attention he's given to my family. Best regards, James Parrish, former co-owner. The second email went to our supplier accounts, transferring all ordering authority to John and removing my authorization. The third email was the most satisfying. It went to every contractor, subcontractor, and business contact we'd built relationships with over the years. Friends and colleagues, after 15 years of partnership, I'm stepping away from Parrish Brothers Electrical due to irreconcilable differences with my business partner. These differences stem from personal matters that have made continued collaboration impossible. I want to thank you all for your support over the years. John Parrish will be taking over all operations. I'm sure you'll find working with him educational. Sincerely, James Parrish. Within an hour, my phone was ringing off the hook. Word travels fast in the construction business, especially when it smells like drama. Everyone wanted to know what irreconcilable differences and personal matters meant. I didn't answer the phone. I just sat in my office, watching through the glass partition as John paced around his office, talking frantically on his phone, probably trying to do damage control. Good luck with that, brother. By noon, Mary knocked on my door. Jimmy, John wants to talk to you. Tell John that all communication needs to go through lawyers now. I'll have the buyout papers drawn up by end of business today. He says it's important, about the Morrison account. The Morrison account was our biggest contract, a new office complex that would keep us busy for 6 months. It was also the account where I had the relationship with the project manager. Tell John that Mr. Morrison has my personal cell phone number. If there are any problems with the account, he's welcome to call me directly. Mary nodded and left. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. This is bigger than you think. B. Beth. Somehow she'd gotten a new phone number, probably so I couldn't track her calls. I typed back, "We talked Friday. You said everything you needed to say." "You're being childish. Think about the girls." That made me laugh out loud. Think about the girls. The girls she'd moved to her parents' house without asking me. The girls who were probably confused about why Daddy wasn't there anymore. I am thinking about the girls. I'm thinking about how to explain that Mommy left Daddy for Uncle John. My phone rang immediately. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 2 minutes of Beth alternating between anger and fake sweetness, demanding that I stop creating drama and think about what's best for everyone. What was best for everyone was for Beth and John to face the consequences of their choices. I deleted the voicemail and got back to work. Tuesday morning brought a new kind of satisfaction. I woke up in my empty house, made coffee in my empty kitchen, and checked my phone to find 17 missed calls from John and 12 text messages from Beth. The messages from Beth were particularly entertaining. "You need to stop this childish behavior." "John says you're trying to ruin the business." "Think about your daughters." "My lawyer says what you're doing could be considered harassment. Call me back. We need to discuss this like adults." I was an adult. Adults don't let people walk all over them. I had breakfast and drove to the office, where Mary greeted me with a stack of messages and a concerned expression. "The phone's been ringing all morning," she said. "Contractors wanting to know what happened, a few clients asking about their projects, and John's been asking when you're coming in." "What did you tell them?" "That you'd call them back." She paused. "Jimmy, I've been here 15 years. I've seen you and John work through disagreements before. This feels different." "This is different, Mary. John crossed a line that can't be uncrossed." She nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I always thought Beth was too good at getting what she wanted. That afternoon, I got a call from Carl Robertson, our company's accountant and the closest thing we had to a board of directors. "Jimmy, I heard about the buyout. You sure about this?" "Never been more sure of anything in my life." "John's been calling me all morning. Says you're having some kind of breakdown. Says Beth left because you've been working too much, drinking too much, not paying attention to your family." I laughed. "That's his story? Is it true?" "Carl, how many nights have you seen me at Murphy's bar?" "Never. You always said you had to get home to the girls." "How many times have I missed a client meeting because I was hungover?" "Never." "How many times has John missed client meetings because he was sick on Monday mornings?" Carl was quiet for a moment. "More than a few. John's trying to rewrite history, make himself look like the responsible brother who's saving the company from my personal problems. Don't let him." "What really happened, Jimmy?" "Beth left me for John. They've been planning this for months. The divorce papers were already drawn up. The movers were already hired. This wasn't some spontaneous decision because I work too much. Jesus, your own brother? My own brother. That evening, I decided it was time to let Beth's social circle know what was really happening. Beth prided herself on her image. Perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect hostess. She'd built her entire identity around being the woman everyone envied. Time to tear that down. I started with Facebook. Beth had always been careful about her social media, but she'd tagged me in hundreds of photos over the years. Family vacations, dinner parties, holiday celebrations. All of those photos told the story of our marriage. I went through them systematically, adding comments. Under a photo from our anniversary dinner last month, funny how she was already planning to leave me when this was taken. Under a family photo from Christmas, the girls don't know yet that Mommy has a new boyfriend. Under a photo of Beth and John at a company party, guess I should have paid more attention to how friendly they were getting. Each comment was factual. Each comment was devastating. Within an hour, Beth's phone was probably exploding with calls from her friends. I could picture her trying to explain, trying to spin the narrative, trying to maintain her perfect image while the truth spread through her social network like wildfire. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Jimmy, this is Beth. You need to stop this right now. You're embarrassing yourself and hurting the girls. Take down those comments immediately or my lawyer will make you take them down. I called her back. Hello, Beth. Take down those Facebook comments. Now. Which comments? The ones where I mentioned you left me, or the ones where I mentioned you left me for my brother? You're being vindictive and petty. I'm being honest. Everything I wrote is true. It's nobody's business. You made it everybody's business when you hired movers to clean out our house while I was at work. You made it everybody's business when you served me divorce papers in front of the neighbors. You made it everybody's business when you decided to parade around town with my brother. We weren't parading. You were holding hands at Starbucks yesterday morning. Tina Morrison saw you and called Mary to ask if it was true that you'd left me. Apparently, you two looked very cozy. Silence on the other end of the line. Here's what's going to happen, Beth. You wanted out of this marriage? Fine. But you don't get to control the narrative. You don't get to make me the villain in your story. And you sure as hell don't get to threaten me with lawyers for telling the truth. The girls are going to see this. The girls are going to find out eventually anyway. Would you rather they heard it from me or from some kid at school whose parents are gossiping about it? You're destroying everything. I'm not destroying anything. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows who swung the wrecking ball. I hung up and went back to Facebook. Beth had been busy too, posting a long, carefully worded status update about difficult times and growing apart and focusing on what's best for the children. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, designed to make her look like the mature, responsible party while implying that I was the problem. I screenshotted it and posted it to my own page with a simple comment. Interesting how growing apart and focusing on the children translates to moved in with my brother-in-law. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. The responses started immediately. Friends and family who'd been trying to stay neutral suddenly had questions. Lots of questions. My phone rang again. This time it was John. Jimmy, you need to stop this. Stop what? You know what? The Facebook posts, the emails to clients, all of it. You're acting like a crazy person. I'm acting like someone who got stabbed in the back by the two people he trusted most. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen, John? Were you going to tell me eventually? Or were you just going to keep sneaking around until I figured it out on my own? Beth was going to tell you. We just needed time to figure out how. Time to figure out how to steal my wife and my business at the same time? Nobody's stealing the business. You're the one who demanded a buyout. Because I can't work with someone I don't trust. And I sure as hell can't work with someone who's been lying to me for months. Jimmy, we're brothers. We can work through this. We were brothers. Past tense. Brothers don't do what you did. People fall in love, Jimmy. It happens. Not with their brother's wife, it doesn't. Not if they have any decency. Beth wasn't happy. You know that. You were always working, always focused on the business. She felt ignored. So instead of talking to me about it, she decided to talk to you about it. How convenient. It started innocent. She just needed someone to listen. When did it start, John? Silence. When did it start? 6 months ago. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of coming home to a wife who was already planning her exit strategy. Half a year of family dinners where Beth and John sat across from each other, sharing secrets. 6 months, I repeated. And in all that time, neither of you thought maybe you should tell me? We tried to stop. We knew it was wrong. But you didn't stop. No, we didn't stop. At least he was finally being honest. Here's what's going to happen, John. I want the buyout papers signed by Friday. I want my name off all the business accounts by Monday. And I want you to stay the hell away from me. What about family holidays? What about the girls? The girls are my daughters, not yours. As for family holidays, you made your choice. Live with it. I hung up and sat in my empty house, surrounded by the echoes of 15 years of marriage. Tomorrow, I'd start the next phase of my plan. Beth and John wanted to be together? Fine. But they were going to learn that actions have consequences. And I was just getting started. Wednesday morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Beth and John thought they'd won, thought they'd outmaneuvered me. They had no idea what was coming. I started with the practical stuff, changed all the passwords on our joint accounts that Beth hadn't gotten to yet, canceled the credit cards she didn't know about, called our insurance agent, and removed Beth from my policies. Then I got creative. Beth had always been proud of her social media presence. She posted constantly about our perfect family life, our home, our vacations. Her Instagram account was a carefully curated showcase of domestic bliss. I started going through her old posts, the ones where she'd tagged our location. The romantic dinner at Romano's where she'd captioned the photo, "Date night with my amazing husband." That was 3 weeks ago, I commented. Amazing how much can change in 3 weeks. Hope your new boyfriend takes you somewhere nicer. The post about our family vacation last summer. Making memories with my favorite people. My comment, too bad you were already making different kinds of memories with my brother. Each comment was a small explosion in her perfect online world. Her friends were starting to ask questions. The carefully constructed image was cracking. My phone rang. Mary from the office. "Jimmy, you need to get down here. There's a situation." I found John in the parking lot, standing next to his truck with a tow truck driver. The truck had 4 flat tires. "Did you do this?" John demanded when he saw me. "Do what?" "My tires. Someone slashed all 4 tires." I walked around the truck, examining the damage. Clean cuts, probably done with a box cutter. Professional job. "That's terrible," I said. "Did you call the police?" "I'm calling them right now." "Good. Make sure you mention that you've been having an affair with my wife. Might be relevant to their investigation." John's face went red. "You think this is funny?" "I think it's karma. You mess with someone's life. Sometimes life messes back. This is vandalism. It's a crime. So is adultery, technically, though I guess that's more of a civil matter these days." The tow truck driver was watching our exchange with obvious interest. Small town, big gossip. By tonight, everyone would know that John Parrish got his tires slashed and his brother didn't seem too broken up about it. "Jimmy," John said, lowering his voice, "we need to talk. Privately." "We talked yesterday. You said people fall in love. I said brothers don't steal each other's wives. Conversation over. This has to stop. Beth's getting calls from her friends, asking questions. Her parents are asking questions. The girls are asking questions. Maybe you should have thought about that 6 months ago. We made a mistake, but we're trying to handle this maturely." "Maturely?" I laughed. "You want to handle this maturely? Here's mature. Tell everyone the truth. Stop trying to make me look like the bad guy. Take responsibility for what you did. And if we do that, then maybe I'll stop commenting on Beth's Facebook posts." John stared at me for a long moment. "You slashed my tires." "Prove it." I walked into the office, leaving John to deal with his tow truck. Mary was waiting with coffee and a worried expression. "This is getting out of hand," she said. "It got out of hand 6 months ago when my wife started sleeping with my brother. I'm just evening the score. Jimmy, I've known you for 15 years. This isn't you. Maybe the old me was too trusting. Maybe the old me was too willing to let people walk all over him." My phone buzzed with a text from Beth. "We need to meet. Tonight, 7 p.m., Murphy's Bar." I texted back, "Why Murphy's?" "Neutral ground, and I know you won't make a scene there." She was wrong about that, but I agreed to meet her anyway. Murphy's Bar was exactly the kind of place you'd expect in a blue-collar town. Dark wood, dim lights, the smell of beer and fried food. I'd been there maybe 5 times in the past 10 years, always for work functions or retirement parties. Beth was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a glass of wine. She'd dressed carefully, not too fancy, not too casual. The outfit of a woman trying to look reasonable. "Thank you for coming," she said as I slid into the seat across from her. "What do you want, Beth?" "I want this war to stop." "What war?" I'm just telling people the truth. You're humiliating me, and you're hurting the girls. The girls are hurt because their mother left their father for their uncle. That's not my fault. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice. Now you're dealing with the consequences. Beth leaned forward, trying to look sincere. Jimmy, I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But destroying my reputation isn't going to fix anything. I'm not destroying your reputation. Your reputation is destroying itself. I'm just making sure people know the facts. The facts aren't the whole story. Then tell me the whole story. She was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. We weren't happy, Jimmy. We hadn't been happy for a long time. So you decided to find happiness with my brother? It wasn't planned. It just happened. For 6 months, it just happened? Her eyes widened slightly. John told you? John told me a lot of things, like how you two tried to stop but couldn't, like how this was all innocent at first, like how I was working too much and not paying attention to you. You were working too much. I was building a business, our business, for our family. You were hiding from our family. That stung because there was a grain of truth in it. I had been working long hours, taking on extra projects, staying late at the office, but I'd been doing it for them. So instead of talking to me about it, you talked to John? John listened. John understood. John wanted to get you into bed. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Beth? Help me understand how my wife and my brother accidentally fell into a 6-month affair. She took a sip of wine, buying time. We started talking at family dinners. You'd be on your phone, dealing with work stuff, and John and I would talk. About the girls, about life, about everything. And somewhere between the small talk and the wine, you decided to blow up our marriage? It wasn't a decision. It was feelings. Feelings don't file divorce papers, Beth. Feelings don't hire movers. Feelings don't plan exit strategies. I knew you'd never let me go willingly. So you ambushed me instead? I knew if we tried to do this gradually, you'd fight it. You'd try to change my mind. Maybe because I thought our marriage was worth fighting for. Was it, Jimmy? Really? When was the last time we talked about something other than the business or the girls? When was the last time we went somewhere together? Just the two of us? I thought about it. She was right. We'd fallen into routines, patterns, the comfortable rhythms of a long marriage. But that didn't justify what she'd done. So instead of trying to fix our marriage, you decided to start a new one with my brother? I decided to be happy. At my expense. You'll be happier too, eventually. We both will. Will the girls be happier? Will they be happy explaining to their friends why Mommy lives with Uncle John now? The girls will adjust. Kids are resilient. The girls will be confused and hurt and angry, and they'll blame you. They'll blame both of us if you keep acting like this. I finished my beer and stood up. Here's what's going to happen, Beth. You're going to stop trying to control how I react to this situation. You're going to stop threatening me with lawyers, and you're going to accept that people are going to judge you for what you did. Jimmy, I'm not done. You want to be with John? Fine. But you don't get to be the victim in this story. You don't get to pretend this just happened. And you don't get to ask me to help you save face. What do you want from me? I want you to own what you did. I want you to stop making excuses. And I want you to understand that there are consequences for betraying people who trusted you. I left her sitting in the booth with her wine and her excuses. Outside, John was waiting by his rental car. Apparently the tire situation wasn't resolved yet. How did it go? He asked. About like you'd expect. She wants me to stop embarrassing her. Maybe you should. Maybe you should have thought about embarrassment before you started sleeping with my wife. Jimmy, we need to find a way to coexist. We're going to be in each other's lives for a long time. The girls, family holidays, business stuff. No, we're not. The buyout papers will be ready tomorrow. Once you sign them, we're done. What about the girls? What about them? They love me. I'm their uncle. You were their uncle. Now you're their mother's boyfriend. Figure out the difference. I got in my truck and drove home to my empty house. But for the first time since this whole thing started, the emptiness didn't bother me. I was starting to like the quiet. Thursday brought the buyout papers and a new level of desperation from Beth and John. My lawyer had done good work, the valuation was fair but firm, and the payment terms were non-negotiable. John had 30 days to come up with his half of the business value, or the company would be sold to cover my share. I was in my office, reviewing the paperwork, when Mary knocked on my door. Jimmy, there's someone here to see you. Beth walked in behind Mary, looking like she hadn't slept. Her perfect hair was slightly messed, her makeup wasn't quite right, and her clothes looked like she'd grabbed them off the floor. We need to talk, she said. I think we covered everything yesterday. John can't afford the buyout. I looked up from the papers. That's not my problem. If he can't pay you, the whole company gets sold. That hurts everyone. Mary loses her job. The guys in the field lose their jobs. All because you want revenge. All because you and John decided to have an affair. Actions have consequences, Beth. So you're willing to destroy innocent people's livelihoods just to hurt us? I'm willing to protect my interests. If John can't afford to buy me out, maybe he shouldn't have risked the business by sleeping with his partner's wife. Beth sat down across from my desk. What if we could work something out? Some kind of payment plan? The terms are in the contract. 30 days, full payment, or the business gets sold. Jimmy, please, think about what you're doing. I've thought about it. I've thought about it every day since I found out my wife was cheating on me with my brother. I've thought about it every time someone asked me what happened to my marriage. I've thought about it every time I came home to an empty house. We never meant for it to happen. But it did happen, and now you get to live with the results. Beth's phone rang. She glanced at it, then at me. It's John. Answer it. She put the phone on speaker. Jimmy's here with me. Good. John's voice came through the phone. Jimmy, I've been talking to some investors. I think I can get the money for the buyout. What investors? Some guys I know. They're interested in the electrical business. I laughed. You mean loan sharks? They're legitimate businessmen. John, let me give you some advice. Don't borrow money from people who break kneecaps when you can't pay them back. I don't have a choice. You're forcing me into this. I'm not forcing you into anything. You could have thought about the financial implications before you started this affair. This is insane, Jimmy. We're talking about destroying everything we built together. You destroyed it when you decided my wife was more important than our partnership. There was silence on the phone for a moment. Then John's voice, quieter now. What if Beth and I broke up? What if we ended this? I looked at Beth. Her face had gone pale. Are you serious? She asked. I'm trying to save the business, John said. If that's what it takes. It's too late for that, I said. You can't unring a bell. You can't undo 6 months of lying to me. So there's nothing we can do? No way to fix this? You can sign the buyout papers and pay me what you owe me. That's the only thing that fixes this. Beth grabbed the phone. John, don't you dare blame this on me. Don't you dare act like I'm the problem here. I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to find a solution. The solution is for Jimmy to stop being vindictive and work with us. The solution, I said, is for both of you to accept that you made choices and choices have consequences. You wanted to be together? Fine. But you don't get to do it without paying the price. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, I could see John's rental car in the parking lot. John, you've got 26 days to come up with the money. If you can't, the business gets sold and we all move on with our lives. Jimmy? I hung up the phone. Beth was staring at me like she didn't recognize me. When did you become so cold? When I realized that the two people I trusted most in the world had been lying to me for 6 months. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to protect yourselves. There's a difference. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. The girls want to see you. When? This weekend? They're asking questions about why you don't live with us anymore. What are you telling them? That Mommy and Daddy needed some time apart. And what are you going to tell them when they ask why Uncle John lives with Mommy now? Beth's jaw tightened. We'll figure that out. No, you'll figure that out. I'm not helping you explain your choices to my daughters. They're our daughters. They're my daughters who happen to have you as a mother. Don't confuse biology with loyalty. Beth walked to the door, then turned back. You know what, Jimmy? Maybe John was right. Maybe you are impossible to live with. Maybe I did make the right choice. Maybe you did, but you made it in the worst possible way. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about the girls. They were 8 and 10, old enough to know something was wrong, but too young to understand the complexities of adult relationships. I called Beth's parents' house. Hello, Mr. Parrish, Beth's mother said. Her voice was cold. Apparently, Beth had gotten to them first with her version of events. Hi, Margaret. I was hoping I could talk to the girls. I don't think that's a good idea right now. They're still adjusting. Adjusting to what? To the separation? Beth explained that you two are having some difficulties. Did Beth explain why we're having difficulties? Silence on the other end of the line. Margaret, I'd like to see my daughters this weekend. You'll have to work that out with Beth. I'm working it out with you. You're the one watching them. Under Beth's instructions. I'm their father. And Beth is their mother, and she's asked us to limit disruptions while the girls adjust to the new situation. I closed my eyes, feeling the anger build in my chest. Beth was using the girls as weapons, controlling access to them while she figured out how to spin the narrative. Margaret, let me be very clear about something. I didn't leave Beth. Beth left me for my brother. If you want to take sides in this situation, make sure you understand what really happened. That's not what Beth told us. I'm sure it's not. Beth's been very creative with the truth lately. Mr. Parrish, I think you should speak with Beth about visitation arrangements. I think Beth should stop using my daughters to manipulate me. I hung up, more frustrated than angry. Beth was playing every angle, controlling every narrative. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated how far I was willing to go to protect myself and my relationship with my daughters. It was time to take the gloves off completely. Friday morning, I woke up with absolute clarity about what needed to happen next. Beth and John thought they could manage this situation, control the damage, and come out looking reasonable. They were wrong. I started with a phone call to Detective Martinez at the police department. We'd done electrical work on the station house last year, and he remembered me. Jimmy Parrish, right? How's business? Could be better, Detective. I'm calling about a harassment situation. What kind of harassment? My ex-wife and her boyfriend have been trying to interfere with my business relationships, making false claims about my mental state and using my children to manipulate me. That's more of a civil matter unless there are threats involved. There might be. I'd like to document everything, just in case it escalates. Come in this afternoon. We'll file a report. The police report was insurance. If Beth and John tried to claim I was unstable or dangerous, there would be an official record of their behavior. Next, I called my lawyer. David, I need you to file for emergency custody of my daughters. On what grounds? Their mother moved them out of their home without consulting me, placed them with her parents without establishing a custody agreement, and is limiting my access to them while she cohabitates with my brother. That's unusual circumstances. Unusual circumstances require unusual responses. Jimmy, are you sure about this? Custody battles get messy, especially when there are allegations of adultery. I'm not making allegations. I'm stating facts, and I want those facts on the record. By noon, the custody papers were filed. By 2 p.m., Beth was calling me, screaming, "How dare you try to take my children away from me?" I'm not taking them away. I'm establishing my parental rights. You're being vindictive. I'm being a father. There's a difference. The girls are fine with my parents. The girls should be with one of their parents, not their grandparents. If you want to live with John, that's your choice. But you don't get to park our daughters somewhere else while you play house. Jimmy, please don't do this. You did this, Beth. The moment you decided to leave our marriage for my brother, you set all of this in motion. We can work something out. Joint custody, shared time, whatever you want. What I wanted was a wife who didn't cheat on me with my brother. Since I can't have that, I'll settle for equal access to my daughters. That afternoon, I drove to Beth's parents' house. Margaret answered the door with a nervous expression. Mr. Parrish, Beth said you might be coming by. I'm here to see my daughters. They're not here. Where are they? Beth picked them up this morning. Where did she take them? I don't know. I handed her a copy of the custody filing. This is a court order establishing temporary custody arrangements. If Beth is hiding my daughters from me, she's in violation of a court order. Margaret's face went white as she read the papers. This says you're asking for primary custody. This says I'm asking for what's best for my daughters, which is stability, honesty, and parents who put their children's needs ahead of their own desires. I left Margaret standing in the doorway and drove straight to John's condo. Beth's car was in the parking lot. I knocked on the door. John answered, looking haggard. Where are my daughters? They're not here. Beth's car is in the parking lot. She's here. The girls aren't. Where are they? Jimmy, you need to calm down. I need to see my daughters. There's a court order that says I have that right. Beth appeared behind John. The girls are safe. Where are they? Somewhere you can't use them to hurt me. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm trying to be their father. You're trying to punish me by taking my children away. I'm trying to make sure my children have stability while their mother sorts out her priorities. John stepped forward. Jimmy, this has gone far enough. We're all adults here. We can figure this out. Adults don't have affairs with their brother's wife. Adults don't abandon their children to play house with their new boyfriend. Adults take responsibility for their actions. We are taking responsibility. No, you're managing public relations. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone and called Detective Martinez. Detective, this is Jimmy Parrish. I filed a harassment report with you this afternoon. I need to add something to it. My ex-wife is violating a court order by hiding my children from me. Beth's eyes went wide. Jimmy, don't. I'm at 1247 Riverside Drive, Unit 12B. The mother is here, but she's refusing to tell me where she's hidden our daughters. We'll send a unit over, Martinez said. I hung up and looked at Beth and John. You've got about 10 minutes to decide how you want this to play out. You can tell me where my daughters are, or you can explain to the police why you're violating a court order. This is insane, John said. This is consequences, I replied. Beth was pacing now, her perfect composure finally cracking. They're at my sister's house in Springfield. They're safe, they're happy, and they don't need to be in the middle of this mess. They're already in the middle of it. You put them there when you decided to blow up our family. The police arrived 5 minutes later. 2 officers, professional and thorough. They read the court order, listened to both sides, and made it clear that Beth needed to produce the children within 24 hours or face contempt charges. After the police left, the 3 of us stood in John's living room, the weight of the situation finally settling in. This ends now, I said. One way or another, this ends now. What do you want? Beth asked. I want my daughters back in their own home. I want a custody agreement that gives me equal time with them, and I want both of you to stop trying to control the narrative about what happened to our marriage. And if we agree to that, then we all move on with our lives. You and John can be together, I'll rebuild my life, and the girls can have both their parents without all this drama. And the business? I looked at John. The buyout stands. You've got 3 weeks to come up with the money. And if I can't, then we sell the business and split the proceeds. Either way, our partnership is over. Beth and John exchanged glances. They were finally understanding that their actions had consequences they couldn't manage or control. Okay, Beth said quietly. We'll bring the girls home tomorrow. Good. And Beth, next time you want to make a major life change, try having an adult conversation about it first. You might be surprised what honest communication can accomplish. I left them standing in John's condo and drove home to my empty house. But it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like a place where I could start over. Tomorrow, I'd see my daughters. Next week, I'd start looking for a new business opportunity. Next month, I'd begin building a new life. Beth and John could have each other, but they'd learned that getting what you want sometimes costs more than you're willing to pay. And sometimes, the person you betray is stronger than you thought. I sat on my porch as the sun went down, planning my future. For the first time in months, that future looked bright.